runners, let's talk about recovery, post-run recovery. So everyone talks about a warm-up, but we really don't talk about what to do after a run. So I, of course, have a warm-up and a recovery that I offer for all of our RunRx members, and it's on the app. It's free on the app. And what I talk about for recovery that's different than the warm-up is you want to get ready to run, right? You want to get some blood flow, so you want to do a little bit of movement, you want to get elasticity, you want to get a lot of rotation in the joint because you're about to run on that hip. So hip rotation, ankle rotation, all really important in the warm-up. Then after your run, what's important for recovery? So a lot of people automatically think stretching, which is important. But the first and foremost for recovery, you want to get the elasticity back in the hips. And this is something, by the way, that when I first got into run coaching, I didn't even know there was elasticity in the hips. But don't you realize when you stop running, even if you're running in a long race, haven't you ever felt that? Or if you get in your car after a run and you get out of a car, either way, it's like the stiffness sets in the hips. So what we want to do is avoid that stiffness by putting the elasticity back in the hips. So I'm going to show you standing. I give a sit down and a lay down recovery that you can do when you get home. So what about right when I finished running, I just finished running, what should be something I think about doing? So I'm going to say the first thing I'm going to do, especially if I'm standing, glute activation. Biggest muscle in the hip. And when you run for a long, long time, like I said, you use a lot of elasticity in your run and you keep dropping on that leg, right? So it's like it's getting constantly challenged the whole run. So a quick, easy thing to do right after you finish running is glute activation. I like to use glute walks. You can stand still, but glute activation is really activating that glute muscle yourself and then letting the leg come back because that's going to stimulate that glute to kind of wake back up and do its job, right? Holding your hip up. So maybe 5 or 10 on each side. If you want to move with it, you can do a glute walk where you actually put stability on the leg you're standing on and then squeeze the other glute. So both of these are fine. And what happens is you'll feel that when you stand back, okay, my glutes are back on. I can move a little bit better. And then the second thing is the thighs, so the quads, the hips. So you've got the glute now, and then we want the inner outer thigh. So very simple. Just take your hand and resist as you press your leg away. So again, just 4 or 5 on each side. Hold on to something if you need balance. And this is just a really quick, simple way. Now inner thigh, I would definitely hold on to something. So you see, all I'm doing is I had resistance on the out, then resistance back in, and then one more, and that's resistance on the quad itself. So this is like the opposite of the glute walk, where we went back this way, come forward. So put your hands on your hip flexor, and you can, again, I just rotate and just do a few on each side. It seems really basic, and it is. However, it really is nice for the hips, because then what happens is when that elasticity is back on, your hips are more stable. And it actually makes sense to do this before you stretch. Put the elasticity and stability back in the hip and then go home and stretch. If you can't just sit down after the race or after your run, then plan on doing that later when you get home. And like I said, we have that. And it's very simple. It's the same idea of what I did just now, but it's laying down. So then you get the same idea. We're going to do the glute lifts. You can do it with a straight leg or bent knees. I like the straight leg hip lift, especially after a run, because this really mimics my standing, right? When your legs are out straight. So it kind of puts the elasticity back the way you had it. And then I bring my knees in, hands on the outside. So again, very similar to what I did standing, but I can do both legs, obviously, and my back is out of it. Hands on the inside, resist coming in, hands on the quads, and resist this direction. And again, this is on our free app. And again, it seems very simple, but it's just to put that elasticity and stability back into the hip. Once you've done those 3 exercises, then you can go into your stretching. And it's actually a much nicer way to get into the stretching, because once you've done that, you'll feel it. Your hips will feel just a little bit more stable, is the word I like to use. And then you can get into your stretching. And we have a bunch of stretches, and that's great. Whatever you choose to do for your stretch, fantastic. But using that immediately after a run is just amazing to get yourself back into the run, right? Meaning I want to get up from my run or finish my run and not feel like I have to walk like this. So just know that that's elasticity, right? We use a lot of elasticity in running. So when we're done, we kind of feel flat or deflated. So getting that elasticity back starts with that, just simple. I mean, it's just simple, getting that hip to get the elasticity back. And then of course, as you keep recovering, when you go to warm up again, or you do another recovery, of course, like I said, in the warm up, we do a lot of elasticity development, hopping and whatnot in the warm up to get your springs on for your run. So then after your run, you want to make sure you have your elasticity back so you can get the springs back on for your run again. And a lot of times I also recommend put in a little bit of strength as part of your recovery. So like at RunRx, we have 3 units: skill, strength, self-care. And each one is its own unit. You can combine them, of course, but the idea is I want you to work on skill, like a drill or something, and then I want you to work on strength, and then I want you to work on self-care, which is a combination of stretches and mobility. And a lot of times I'll put in, for the runners, I'll say a good idea is to do a set of the recovery, which you just saw, you know, the glutes, inner outer thigh, and then the front of the leg, and then do a simple strength exercise, which could be like a plank pull. It's always some kind of body weight exercise, and it's to do the second part of the recovery, meaning I got my stability back in the hip. I'm going to strengthen the body as a unit, get ready to recover. So strength is actually part of recovery as well. So a lot of times you'll see in our training plans, I'll say something like, please do the recovery, which I just showed you, really 3 simple, very basic exercises. And then I'll say, add in a set of plank pulls or a set of shoulder taps, something that's very basic, still in a really good plank format. Why the plank format? Again, for stability. So then I do something like shoulder taps, right? It's nothing aggressive, but it's just getting the body to work together as a unit again, which is really what you did in your run. So adding a strength exercise that mimics that is also key to recovery. So really those simple, nothing really aggressive, just a very simple, get my elasticity back in the hips and then do something full movement, full body movement that gets my body to work together again. So a plank pull is really simple. I put those, shoulder taps or plank pulls. Again, plank pulls are this direction. And again, if my legs were really tired, I would do the shoulder taps. So it's just something to keep in mind that the strength part of the recovery isn't to do like a workout, it's just to reconnect that line again, that full body line as a unit. And that is the main thing in running. You know, that's really the key if you've been following us at all. So, you know, running itself is about being able to hold your line, right? It's the most important part, because if you're in a good alignment and you're holding a good running pose and you just let nature take over, if you just simply let your body free fall and pull your foot, you should be able to run as far as you want, as long as you want, maybe not as fast as you want yet, but being able to hold that line is the key to your run. Because if everything is holding, then nothing's going to be off, then there's nothing limiting you in your run, right? So the neat thing is once you start adding in the warm-up and the recovery and a little bit of strength, they also become your tools to keep you running. And I tell people this all the time. If you're out running and something feels off, like, oh, I feel like I have a flat tire, right? My calf is hurting, something's off. You can use anything to get you back in line. You could use a skill exercise, like a hop. You could use a strength exercise, right? Like a standing pull that you've learned. Even a hip hinge, right? Maybe a glute walk. Maybe my glutes aren't on anymore, right? So all of these things you're learning as part of your warm-up, as part of your recovery, as part of your strength, you can actually use during your run to get you back to running. So I like to say that because a lot of times when people start running, they're so worried about stopping. I had to stop. It's okay if you have to stop. Think about why you had to stop. Were you winded? Was something hurting? Was something tight? And address those issues. If you were just winded, which is just meant you ran a little too fast, that's okay. Relax, breathe a second, and then use a drill to get back to running. If something's hurting, Don't just try to run through it. Stop a second and assess, where am I off in my line? Let me check my pulls. Let me check my lift, right? You have all these things you're able to do now because you know how you should feel when you run, how you should be standing when you run, your run action, right? Or something's really tight. Oh, my hip's really tight. Well, take a second, do a few glute walks. You just learned those for recovery. Or maybe you actually need to stretch the hip a minute and then go back into the run. And it's amazing when you put all that together and you realize all of it is just to help keep me running. You're more likely to do the warm-up, to do the recovery, you know? It's a lot more fun because what happens is once you are recovered, once you are able to hold your line, you'll find that the warm-up 1, warm-up 2 are still necessary, but you don't have to stop as much during your run. Or you're like, wow, I really held my elasticity during my run. And I can tell you that from myself. When I was early in my running, I was like everybody else. I'll just warm up on the run. My first mile is my warm up. And then when I'm done, I gotta go. I'm done, I gotta go, right? A lot of runners are like, I'm gonna run the whole hour. The whole time I'm gonna run, and maybe I'll stretch later. So I found that, of course, through injury, unfortunately, through my clients getting injured, through me getting injured, you do have to warm up. It really does make a difference. And adding a recovery, wow, that really makes a difference. And again, it's like, you don't have to go through the trials I went through. You can just get right into it and know it really is effective. And if you have to stop during a run, realize why I'm stopping. And then what can I do to get back into my run? Can I use one of the skills, one of the strengths, one of the self-cares to get myself back into running? So take the time to try these things out. And of course, let me know if you try it. I really appreciate the feedback. Thank you to everyone that is watching. I am getting some great comments. And I use the feedback to think about topics to talk about for the next videos. So please feel free to ask anything. Happy to answer. And thank you again for watching. If you subscribe, thank you. And check out the free app if you haven't. It's free on the App Store. And of course, you're always welcome to join us at runrx.fit. Have a great run and recovery. Thank you.